In the far reaches of the galaxy, there existed a structure known only as the archive. Hidden within the gravitational eddies of a decaying star system, it was an artifact of the curators, an ancient and enigmatic species that had disappeared eons ago. The archive was not a vault of treasures or knowledge, but a ledger of judgment, a list of species deemed unworthy of galactic prominence. Every few cycles, emissaries from advanced civilizations would come to the archive to consult its glowing obelisks, seeking the names of those condemned. The system was simple. The archive evaluated the actions, histories, and potential of every sentient species and then rendered its verdict. If a species was deemed unfit to wield power responsibly, their name would appear, etched in luminous script for all to see. The recent cycle had seen the inclusion of the Krexner, a ruthless warlike race that had annihilated 3 neighboring civilizations. Before them, the crystalline Indherans had been recorded for their arrogance and unwillingness to collaborate. The archive was a warning, a cosmic blacklist, ensuring no unworthy species ever rose to unchecked power. And then there were the humans, a curious exception. At first glance, humanity seemed destined for inclusion. Their history was riddled with war, ecological ruin, and acts of savagery that rivaled even the Krexner's worst atrocities. Yet, when the Galactic Concord consulted the archive during humanity's ascension to the stars, they were met with confusion. Humans were not listed. The Concord's representatives argued before the archive's sentient interface, a being of shimmering light and shifting geometry. They've unleashed nuclear fire upon themselves, one envoy argued. They've waged wars spanning centuries. Their societies thrive on competition, not cooperation. The interface responded with serene indifference. The humans are imperfect, as are all who seek to grow. They are exceptions. The emissaries left with more questions than answers. Why were humans exempt? What had the curators seen in them? First contact. By the time the question of humanity's worthiness reached its peak, the humans had already spread across the stars like a wildfire. Their ships were functional rather than elegant, and their colonies often sprung up in places other species considered uninhabitable. They thrived where others would falter, on death worlds with acidic rain, in asteroid fields teeming with hazards, and even beneath the crushing gravity of gas giants' moons. The Galactic Concord extended a cautious invitation for humanity to join its ranks. The human delegation, led by Ambassador Sofia Reyes, arrived with a reputation that preceded them. The hall where the Concord's council convened was an architectural masterpiece, its crystalline spires reaching into the artificial heavens of the capital station. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the amphitheater, their whispers carrying both curiosity and trepidation. Reyes, dressed in a simple black uniform adorned with the insignia of Earth's United Nations, stepped to the central dais. Her presence was calm but commanding. "Esteemed council," she began, her voice steady. "Humanity is honored to stand here today. We know our history precedes us and it is not without its scars. But we come not as conquerors nor as beggars. We come as equals, seeking collaboration and understanding." The speech was met with polite applause, but skepticism lingered in the air. A warning ignored. After the meeting, Reyes was approached by an insectoid diplomat from the peaceful Egran Confederacy. The Egran's multifaceted eyes glinted in the station's light. "Ambassador Reyes, I mean no offense, but your species is a curious anomaly. The archive's judgment carries great weight. Your exemption is unprecedented." Reyes tilted her head, intrigued. "What do you mean by exemption?" The Egran hesitated before answering. "The archive has judged every species that ascends to interstellar prominence. Those deemed dangerous or unworthy are recorded. But humanity, your species has been spared. It defies logic." Reyes's smile was faint. Perhaps the curators understood that potential should not be measured by perfection. The Egran's mandibles clicked thoughtfully, but their concern remained evident. "Many within the Concord see your kind's resilience as a threat. Be cautious, Ambassador." Reyes nodded, though inwardly she knew caution alone wouldn't be enough. Humanity's nature was to push boundaries, to challenge assumptions, and to forge ahead regardless of warnings. They were the species that had turned wastelands into thriving metropolises, that had survived extinction-level events of their own making. If others feared them, it was not without reason. What neither the Egran nor Reyes knew was that the archive's exception had caught the attention of darker forces. Far from the council chambers, in the shadowed corners of the galaxy, the Krexner Empire, the same species condemned by the archive, watched humanity with keen interest. Exceptions, their warlord hissed, often become threats. The first encounter with humanity had concluded. But the real test was only beginning. On the edge of Concord space, where stars dimmed into the vast emptiness of the galactic frontier, the Krexner plotted their resurgence. They were a race of conquerors, banished from the halls of the archive for their cruelty, yet their defiance burned as fiercely as ever. The humans' unexplained exemption from the archive was both an affront and an opportunity. Warlord Garthal loomed over the holographic display of Earth's expanding territories. The humans had claimed barren moons, molten worlds and frozen wastelands with a speed that unsettled even the Krexner. Their ships, though crude by galactic standards, were efficient and robust, capable of enduring conditions that would cripple other fleets. They spread like pests, one of Garthal's advisors spat, mandibles clicking in disdain. Garthal's clawed hand gestured to silence the room. No, he growled, his voice low and deliberate. Not pests. Predators. Humanity's resilience is its greatest strength, and its greatest weakness. They thrive on conflict. They are forged in it. His yellow eyes gleamed as he issued his orders. We will give them what they desire most. A fight. But not on their terms. If the archive will not condemn them, we shall force their hand. Humanity will reveal its true nature to the galaxy. The bait is set. The Krexner targeted the colony of Helios 7, a small human settlement on the edge of the Sol Protectorate. It was a fledgling outpost, scarcely more than a mining operation and a few hundred colonists eking out a living beneath the shadow of its crimson sun. To the Krexner, it was an ideal target, isolated, lightly defended, and symbolic of humanity's audacity to claim inhospitable worlds. The attack was swift and brutal. Krexner warships descended on the colony with precision, their energy weapons tearing through the orbital defenses in moments. Ground troops followed, towering reptilian soldiers in bioarmor that shimmered with adaptive camouflage. The colony's meager militia fought valiantly, but they were hopelessly outmatched. When the Krexner withdrew, they left devastation in their wake. Entire sections of the colony were reduced to rubble, and over half of its population was either dead or taken captive. The survivors' desperate distress call echoed across the void, a cry for help that reached Earth within hours. The human response. On Earth, the news of Helios 7's destruction spread like wildfire. Images of the ruined colony and grieving survivors filled every broadcast, igniting a firestorm of anger and grief across humanity's territories. It wasn't the first time humanity had faced loss in the stars, but this attack was different. It wasn't an accident or a natural disaster. It was deliberate, calculated, and merciless. Ambassador Sophia Reyes stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her expression grim but resolute. This was not just an attack on Helios 7, she declared. It was an attack on all of humanity. If we do nothing, we invite more of the same. We must respond. Admiral Jacob Malik, the veteran commander of the Sol Fleet, nodded in agreement. The Krexner made a mistake. They've underestimated us. They think we'll cower, that we'll retreat. But humanity does not retreat. The Council voted unanimously to authorize a counteroffensive. For the first time in decades, the full might of the Sol Fleet was mobilized. Warships bristling with weapons of human ingenuity, railguns, fusion torpedoes, and advanced kinetic shields, prepared to take the fight to the Krexner. But humanity's response wasn't limited to its military. In the shadowy corners of Earth's intelligence network, plans were set in motion to exploit the Krexner's aggression. Spies infiltrated Krexner-controlled systems, gathering intel on their movements and supply lines. Scientists worked around the clock to refine experimental weapons. And behind closed doors, humanity's leaders reached out to other species condemned by the archive, forging alliances that would tip the balance of power. The galaxy watches. As humanity prepared for war, the rest of the galaxy watched with bated breath. The Concord's Council convened in an emergency session to debate the implications of the escalating conflict. The humans are reacting exactly as we feared, said Threx, a sleek-furred diplomat from the Serati Union. Their aggression will destabilize the region. They are defending their people, countered Lurithel, an elder of the Egran Confederacy. Would you not do the same? The debate raged on, but one fact was undeniable. The Krexner's attack had pushed humanity into the spotlight. The archive's exception for humans, once a curious anomaly, now loomed over every discussion. Why had the curators spared them? What did they see in humanity that justified their exclusion from the ledger of unworthiness? In the shadow of these debates, the Krexner intensified their efforts. Their spies spread propaganda, painting humanity as a dangerous upstart species with no regard for galactic harmony. They hoped to sway the neutral factions of the Concord, to turn public opinion against the humans before their true strength could be unleashed. But humanity was not so easily swayed. On every colony and every ship, a singular message resonated: they would not stand down. The Krexner had awakened a force they did not fully understand, a force that thrived on adversity, that grew stronger in the face of insurmountable odds. And in the quiet corridors of the archive, where the luminescent obelisks stood as silent witnesses to history, the exception for humanity glowed brighter than ever. It was as if the curators themselves were watching, waiting for the next chapter of the story they had foreseen. The humans were ready. The Krexner had made their move, and the galaxy was about to learn why humanity had been spared. The Krexner prepared for humanity's retaliation with grim resolve. Their scouts reported Sol Fleet's mobilization, and their analysts calculated humanity's likely routes of attack. For all their cunning, the Krexner underestimated the depth of humanity's adaptability and their refusal to play by the expected rules of war. The first strike. Humanity's counteroffensive began with a maneuver so bold it bordered on reckless. Admiral Malik, commanding the Sol Fleet from the UN Vanguard, launched a surprise raid on a Krexner forward base in the Citrix Nebula. The base was heavily fortified, its defenses designed to repel any conventional assault. But Malik had no intention of engaging conventionally. Using advanced stealth technology developed in secret, the fleet's smaller, agile frigates slipped through the nebula's turbulent magnetic storms, their emissions masked by the natural interference. Once inside the Krexner's perimeter, they unleashed chaos. Railgun slugs tore through the base's shielding, targeting power generators and ammunition depots. Fusion torpedoes, modified for precision strikes, obliterated key command centers. By the time the Krexner responded, the humans were already withdrawing, leaving behind a shattered base and a stark message: humanity was not to be trifled with. The victory sent shockwaves across the galaxy. News of the raid spread rapidly, and humanity's ability to outmaneuver a superior force became the talk of every council chamber and war room. The Krexner, humiliated and enraged, vowed to respond with overwhelming force. The Krexner counterstrike. True to their word, the Krexner launched a massive fleet toward Proxima Centauri, one of humanity's key colonies. The Krexner expected an easy victory. Proxima's defenses were formidable but no match for the Empire's armada. Yet as their fleet approached, they found the system eerily silent. No ships greeted them, no defense stations opened fire. The Krexner warlord commanding the fleet, Vratok, was cautious but determined. The humans think to outwit us with misdirection, he growled to his subordinates. Prepare for ambush protocols? What they didn't anticipate was humanity's audacious strategy. A small task force, led by Commander Elena Vasquez, had infiltrated the Krexner fleet itself. Using experimental cloaking devices, Vasquez and her team boarded the Krexner flagship, sabotaging its communication systems and planting charges in critical areas. At the same time, human warships emerged from Proxima's asteroid belt, targeting the disoriented Krexner fleet with a coordinated barrage. The resulting chaos was devastating. Krexner ships fired blindly, some colliding in the confusion, while others fell victim to precise human strikes. Vasquez's team detonated their charges, crippling the flagship and forcing Vratok to order a retreat. Allies from the shadows. As the conflict escalated, humanity revealed another ace up its sleeve: unexpected allies. The Condemned Coalition, a loose alliance of species judged unworthy by the archive, had quietly been watching humanity's rise. Seeing an opportunity, they reached out through clandestine channels. One of these species, the Malkiri, were once a proud and advanced civilization before the Krexner had nearly driven them to extinction. Their envoy, a tall, silver-scaled being named Tlath, met with Ambassador Reyes in a dimly lit chamber aboard a Concorde station. "We were once like you," Tlath said, his voice tinged with sorrow. "Proud, independent, unafraid. The Krexner destroyed us for it. But you fight back. You give us hope." Reyes listened intently, her expression serious. "If we stand together, we can do more than survive. We can end their reign of terror." The Malkiri agreed, offering intelligence on Krexner supply lines and vulnerabilities. Soon, other species joined the fold, each bringing unique strengths to humanity's cause. The alliance remained hidden from the Concorde, whose strict neutrality laws forbade such coalitions. For humanity, survival outweighed politics. The tides turned. With their newfound allies, humanity's strategy shifted. They didn't just defend their territory, they went on the offensive, targeting Krexner infrastructure deep in enemy space. Mining operations were disrupted, shipyards sabotaged, and key trade routes blockaded. The Krexner, long accustomed to being the hunters, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Humanity's unpredictability and their allies' intimate knowledge of Krexner tactics created a lethal combination. In one decisive engagement near the Carthan Rift, the combined forces of humanity and the coalition faced a Krexner fleet 3 times their size. Admiral Malik coordinated a daring pincer maneuver, using the rift's unstable gravity wells to trap the Krexner ships. The battle was brutal, but by the end, the Krexner had lost over half their fleet. For the first time in centuries, the Krexner warlords were forced to acknowledge a bitter truth. They were losing. The Concord takes notice. As the war raged, the Concord's council could no longer ignore humanity's rise. The Egran elder Lurithel spoke during an emergency session. Humanity has defied every expectation. They've united the condemned, resisted the Krexner, and proven their strength. The archive was right to spare them. Threx of the Sarati Union countered, his fur bristling. And what happens when they turn their strength on us? They've shown they can unite others. What if they decide the Concord is a threat? The debate grew heated, but no consensus was reached. Humanity's actions had shifted the balance of power, and the Concord was torn between fear and admiration. The calm before the storm. On Earth, Ambassador Reyes addressed a gathering of human and coalition leaders. The room was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, united by a shared purpose. Reyes's voice carried a quiet intensity as she spoke. The Krexner underestimated us. The galaxy underestimated us. But we are not conquerors, we are survivors. We fight not for domination but for the right to exist. Her words were met with a thunderous response, a chorus of voices and roars that echoed through the chamber. Humanity and their allies were ready for whatever came next. The Krexner's gambit had failed, but the war was far from over. Victory was within reach, but the cost would be high. Humanity's greatest test was yet to come, and the galaxy was watching. The war between humanity and the Krexner reached its crescendo. The final act played out not in a single battle, but in a sprawling, multi-front campaign that tested the limits of human ingenuity, resilience, and the fragile alliance they had forged with the condemned coalition. The Krexner, bruised but unbroken, prepared for one last gamble to crush their defiant enemies. The Krexner's last stand. Deep within the Kriegoth expanse, the Krexner Warlord Council convened aboard their flagship, the Iron Dominion. The council chamber was a stark, utilitarian space, lit by the cold glow of tactical displays. Garthal, the de facto leader of the council, growled as he pored over reports of human victories. We underestimated them, he admitted, his tone laced with grudging respect. But they are not invincible. The Krexner's plan was audacious: lure humanity and its allies into a decisive trap. Using false intelligence, they seeded rumors of a secret Krexner shipyard capable of producing a fleet of dreadnoughts. The bait was irresistible. Humanity could not ignore such a threat. The location was chosen carefully, a desolate, resource-rich system surrounded by unstable wormholes and dense asteroid fields. The Krexner fleet positioned itself in the shadows, hidden behind the asteroid belts, waiting for humanity to take the bait. The human trap. Admiral Malik stood aboard the bridge of the UN Vanguard, staring at the holographic map of the Kriegoth system. The supposed shipyard was marked in ominous red, surrounded by what appeared to be minimal defenses. It was too convenient, too clean. They want us to walk into this, Malik said, his voice calm but edged with determination. And we will. But not on their terms. Humanity had grown adept at anticipating Krexner tactics. Malik and his team devised a counter-trap, using the Krexner's overconfidence against them. The main fleet would appear to engage the shipyard directly, drawing the Krexner out of hiding. Meanwhile, cloaked coalition ships and human stealth frigates would maneuver through the asteroid fields, ready to strike at the exposed flanks. As the fleet jumped into the Kriegoth system, the tension aboard the Vanguard was palpable. Every soldier, pilot, and technician knew this was the turning point. Victory here could end the war, or doom them all. The clash. The battle began with a thunderous assault on the decoy shipyard. Human warships unleashed a barrage of railgun fire and torpedoes, tearing through the facility's outer structures. As predicted, the Krexner fleet emerged from hiding, a tidal wave of warships that dwarfed humanity's forces. Garthal watched from the Iron Dominion, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. They've taken the bait, he snarled. All ships advance. Crush them. But as the Krexner fleet surged forward, the hidden coalition ships made their move. Emerging from the asteroid fields, They unleashed devastating volleys on the Krexner's rear guard. Krexner ships scrambled to respond, their formations collapsing into chaos. The humans pressed their advantage. Using advanced maneuvering tactics, they exploited every gap in the Krexner's lines, targeting command ships and supply vessels. The once coordinated Krexner assault devolved into a desperate melee. On the vanguard, Malik issued rapid orders, directing the fleet with surgical precision. His voice carried across the comms, steady and resolute. "Stay focused. We've got them." The final blow. As the battle raged, Commander Elena Vasquez led a strike team aboard a cloaked frigate toward the Iron Dominion. Their mission: disable the flagship's command systems and force the Krexner to retreat. The team infiltrated the ship with grim efficiency, navigating its labyrinthine corridors while avoiding patrols. They reached the command center where Garthal himself waited. The ensuing firefight was brutal, the confined space amplifying every shot and explosion. Vasquez confronted Garthal directly, their battle a clash of raw strength and unyielding will. In the end, humanity's desperation and ingenuity triumphed. Garthal fell, his body collapsing with a heavy thud, and the Krexner flagship was disabled. As the Iron Dominion systems faltered, the remaining Krexner ships scattered, their resolve shattered. Humanity and its allies stood victorious. The aftermath. The cost of victory was staggering. Ships lay in ruins and countless lives were lost. But the Krexner threat had been neutralized, their empire fractured beyond repair. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was free from their tyranny. Humanity's allies in the coalition celebrated the victory as a triumph of unity and defiance. The Valkyrie, once fractured and scattered, began to rebuild with human support. Bonds forged in the crucible of war grew stronger, reshaping the galaxy's political landscape. Yet, amidst the celebrations, a somber note lingered. Humanity's leaders knew that the galaxy's eyes were upon them. The Archive's exception for humanity had been tested, and questions remained unanswered. Why had the curators spared them? What role did they see humanity playing in the galaxy's future? An open ending. Ambassador Reyes addressed a gathering of coalition representatives, her voice calm but tinged with resolve. "We've proven that no empire, no tyrant can dictate our fate. But this is just the beginning. Together we can build a future where no species is condemned, where every voice matters." Her words were met with applause, but the journey ahead was uncertain. The Krexner had been defeated, but the galaxy was vast, its dangers manifold. Humanity had survived its greatest trial yet, but new challenges loomed on the horizon. As the fleet returned to Earth, Admiral Malik stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. "We've come so far," he murmured. "But we're not done yet." Humanity's story, it seemed, was far from over. They had faced the galaxy's worst, and prevailed. Now they stood ready for whatever came next.